For those of you lucky enough to stay off the complete hellscape that is twitter.com, with all of the political drama, bots, the infestation of scams, I have something here that's a little bit different and unique. Something that we're all akin to. A story and a tale that is classic and as old as time itself. Red versus blue, good versus evil. Pokemon is the evil. This is a Pokemon TCG versus Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. In this story, we have people getting scammed out of $1,000+. We have under the table deals. We have memes, below the belt, personal attacks and beef, and something of a challenge that has been opened up. A verified Twitter account called Duels made a statement claiming that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not even that hard. It is one of the easiest card games at a high level of play. Tryhards who play the game make spreadsheets off of 1 to 3 card combos. I feel like if people did this with Pokemon, there would be far too many variables. Back in my day, bait used to be believable. I don't even know what's going on here. Do you seriously think someone was going to pick up on this? Well, yeah, of course they did. It's Twitter. Everyone hopped on and decided to give their 2 cents and discuss what exactly is going on here. Now, I'm gonna give my personal thoughts and opinions as to the semantics of difficult and not difficult later, but let's get into the drama, because this somehow unfolded into more than just a shit-slinging match. Because normally what happens on Twitter is people just piss on each other and just throw their opinion out there into the wind thinking that everyone needs to hear this. But this gets so much worse. But first, let's do a couple of memes over this. Pokemon players hear, wait, I have a response, and instantly shit themselves. Least complicated modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck. A detailed guide and spreadsheet, 240 combos, a brief study of branded, 19 hours 46 minutes. You've all seen this absolute classic. The infamous Ishizu tier Hani versus Pac mirror match. Full power tier limit mirror. Quick, real quick, how does this chain resolve? Pokemon player? Now, possibly the most rational discussion and reply that I saw to this was right here. Anyone, including both the OP and half the replies, who thinks the difficulty in Yu-Gi-Oh! Gameplay, putting deck building aside, is about memorization of combos and not about the efficiency finding of navigating lines through disruption, is someone who does not play Yu-Gi-Oh! The semantics of whether or not Pokemon is harder than Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Yu-Gi-Oh! Is harder than Pokemon is not really worth the discussion, because ultimately, who cares? Now, first and foremost, let me just make abundantly clear, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is absolutely harder and more difficult than Pokemon. But that doesn't necessarily have to be a positive thing. That's not a one-up or a gotcha moment. This is not the flex you think it is, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. And there's been a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players arguing and debating that this is somehow the way and angle to tackle this. There are positives to a game being more difficult, and there are certainly negatives. Every single Yu-Gi-Oh! Card has 2+ unique card effects. Most of those cards have some sort of restriction, activation requirement, or condition, or involved with how you actually resolve the card, whether it's an and effect, an also effect, and if you do effect. And then on top of that, you have all of the various combos associated with whatever deck you're playing. I mean, for God's sake, even just a Blue Eyes structure deck that was just recently released has a spreadsheet designed for it. Now, Counter-Strike is a very simple and easy game. You click on people's heads, they die, you win. But there's so much complexity within that framework. That's kind of the same as Pokemon. Yeah, it's a very simple, basic game at a fundamental level, but there's a lot of complexity and nuance to that, and that's why people who win the tournaments do it consistently and are very good at the game. There is complexity in the simplicity of Pokemon. This is not a gotcha moment. In fact, this is arguably one of the worst things about Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it creates a barrier to entry. Because it's harder to get people into the game, to make the game more popular, to grow it, etc. But anyway, let's get into some of the juicy drama here. How did this get so much worse? Riff Gaming, YCS Anaheim Champion 2024, makes a tweet saying that I will read a Pokemon card for the first time in my life, enter a Pokemon regional the very next day, and still top. Riff Gaming has actually given himself a challenge to go and top a Pokemon regional, somewhere in between a YCS and a regional for our Yu-Gi-Oh! Equivalent. Go and top that event, having never played the game before. Oh boy, he was not lying. The Atlanta Pokemon Regional Championship, 11 to 13-25. The ticket has been purchased and he's going there. And here he is on his live stream, which I guess you should probably follow if you're interested in Thrift content. Shoutouts to him. Pokeduels retweets this and saying, "Is bro playing Arcanine?" I don't know what that means in Pokemon, but in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, I assume that's probably something akin to saying, "Yo, is bro summoning Fossil Dyna? Or is bro summoning Lejin?" Some noob tier card, I guess. And the expression on his face is really telling for someone who is experiencing a card game for the first time. I think that's a draw 7 in his hand. Yeah, card advantage is kind of meaningless in Pokemon. But this is where things got absolutely insane. Galzo challenged Pokeduels to a $1,000 money match. You choose the deck. How could this possibly go down, and how would this unfold? Now, this is where things get really interesting. A so-called Pokemon noob, a so-called player who has never touched the game, challenges you to a Tearlament Ishizu full power mirror match. Now, to say that something is suspicious and up here would be an understatement. You guys have all seen those YouTube scam videos where like someone gets makeup and they're dressed up like an old man and stuff. They go into a gym and suddenly they're bench pressing like 400 kilos or something. That's kind of what's going on here. Pokeduels, after much investigation by Nesh, which some of you probably are aware of if you do follow the drama on Twitter, manages to, I suppose, go into a couple of details and finds out that basically this account is not compromised, but it's shared between a bunch of people. And so naturally, weird, I know, the person who challenged Galzo to a Tier Ishizu full power mirror match wasn't actually the Pokemon player. And so after a whole flurry of plays, I'm not going to commentate on this gameplay or talk about it, but basically, let me give you the rundown here. Galzo gets 2-0'd. I mean, look at these niche plays that's going on here. Make Dark, summon your opponent's monster, crash the Dark to then add Shiren so that you can then use it in main phase 2. I mean, you're not playing against a Pokemon player. You're not playing against someone who only plays Pokemon. This is very clear and obvious. And Galzo, let's just say his $1,000 gets finessed. I'm sorry, Galzo, cat's out the bag right now, but I gotta show these DMs. It's so funny. That guy shit on me. Did you actually money match him? I played the guy thinking like, who the fuck is he? Let's tier mirror. Farfa, he shat on my head. He got 2-0'd in a Tier Ishizu mirror match by a random Pokemon duelist. And that's not to say, of course, our YCS champion Triff didn't have something to say about this. Never challenge Pokemon players. You lost, you suck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Too easy. You dueled our Yamcha. In just 19 hours, this interaction has garnered over 3,000 likes and over 100,000 views. I don't think we will ever in our lifetime see a burn as incendiary and as high temperature as what unfolded here. You dueled our Yamcha. But remember what I said about the money behind this? It gets worse. This is probably the funniest outcome of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Posting. Too bad bro never paid. All right, so let's lay out the situation here. Galzo $1,000 money matches a random Pokemon duelist and gets absolutely shit on his head 2-0 by someone who clearly is not a Pokemon player and has someone else backseating or at least running the account for them on Dueling Book. Now, a moral dilemma, trolley-esque problem for you all watching. Do you pay or do you not pay? Clearly, you've been finessed and scammed. It's like going to the carnival and shooting one of those like wacky rifles that aren't actually properly aiming down the sights correctly. It's like using one of those different contraptions at all the various circus acts that aren't actually made to let you win. Like playing a crane game. You know kind of what you're getting yourself into, and if you get scammed in that way, well, maybe it's your fault. But at the same time, you did offer to money match a specific person and they didn't actually be the person to actually duel you. Whatever it is you think the situation here should be and how it should be resolved, take a look at some of the statements from both players. I didn't want to continue this topic, but I gotta address the money match. It was under the pretense that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was easy, and of course no player who never played Yu-Gi-Oh! Can never beat a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player. We played, I picked the decks, I played like ass and lost. Believe me or not, I would have never taken a dime from someone just to prove a point, but that's up for everyone to believe. Pokeduels TCG paid or not another player with over 8,000 duels on Dueling Book, by the way. So after investigating the Dueling Book account, by the way, they found that the account that was running it had over 8,000 games played on that Dueling Book account. I don't even think my own account has 8,000 duels played on Dueling Book. They paid someone with over 8,000 duels on Dueling Book to duel me in his place instead after opening a fresh account under the name Pokéduels TCG. Basically a simple hustle. I got baited, I lost, played like ass, that's all true. Nesh checked and verified the IP address, and it's a player who's had an account from 2018 with over 8k duels, not Pokéduels himself. As the match was supposed to show that Yu-Gi-Oh was easy. I got hustled, it was a dumb mistake to even challenge such a stupid amount, but you tell me, if you get scammed out of a match to prove a point, even if you get your ass handed to you, should you pay? Should you pay a scammer under false pretenses? I don't know. Pokéduels did tell me over DMs in the original tweet, I've never played Yu-Gi-Oh! No one would ever be that stupid to go into a money match not knowing the game just to lose, but alas, I was the one who got baited. I guess you really did fuck around and find out. Ask stupid questions, you get stupid answers. Pokéduels retorts with a statement saying, quick statement from the actual Pokéduel. The Yu-Gi-Oh player I let on the account were behind the tweets and behind organizing the money match with Galzo. Personally, I was fine with it going down since people were getting upset at posts that I didn't even make. Of course, I wouldn't be the one playing the match. I let whoever made the post handle it. In hindsight, I probably should have stepped in and stopped everything before it got too out of control, so that's my fault. None of us expected this to blow up as much as it did. It was just stupid fun that got out of hand. I don't hide the fact that multiple people run this account. If you're mad about that, I don't know what to say beyond I'm sorry. Verifying your opponent before dueling online should be common practice. And that's where the story has ended so far. The money match has concluded, the money has not been paid, Galzo got completely scammed and finessed by an over 8,000 duel grinder on Dueling Book and refuses to pay because he feels that he has been scammed. Some of you might disagree and say, hey, you signed up, you got yourself into this mess, you gotta get yourself out of it. There was always a chance that someone could have played in his stead. I mean, come on. Your opponent suggests willingly, having never played Yu-Gi-Oh before, let's play Power of the Elements tier mirrors. I feel like red flags and alarm bells should be going off at that point when you have $1,000 on the line, but, you know, not trying to victim blame or anything here, but that's really a dumb situation, isn't it? So that is where our tale ends and the drama that unfolded, and here it is presented to you in its full timeline over the course of the last 24 hours. And a wholesome statement here from the Kangas as the host of the NA events for Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. All card games are awesome. I don't care if you like more is more than mine. I will hold any combination of paper cards in my hand and feel giddy. Arcana, Pokemon, Magic, Star Wars, doesn't matter. And no one can rob me of this joy with trivial and biased takes. And Distant Coder chimes in and says, I think different card games being different is normal. Putting down other card games is weird. People wanting to 1v1 a person who doesn't play Yu-Gi-Oh! At Yu-Gi-Oh! To prove a point is pointless. Any other questions, or can we toss the rage bait aside now? I mean, it really is just that simple. Who cares? You know when you're like 6 years old or something and you're talking about my dad could beat up your dad and it's just that type of level? It's like, who cares? It's just so irrelevant. Ultimately, it's a very niche and nerd type of hobby and culture. I want all card games to do well and succeed. I like Pokemon. I think it's pretty interesting and cool. I prefer Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't care what you do with your spare time, but a little bit of back and forth banter is always nice. And watching someone get scammed in the process of it, not so nice, but kind of funny. Thanks everyone for watching. Shout out to all the channel members. Subscribe and get all the cool emotes that I have on my Twitch. But here over on YouTube, become a Patreon for more discussion style contents and the regular uploads. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, adios!